of the land were once pure and free. But the arrival of colonizers changed everything. The colonizers brought their own beliefs and forced them on the people, which led to the loss of the people's true spirit, souls, and authentics. The poem highlights the negative effect of the coloniality of the people and the land, but it also emphasizes the importance of remembering the spirit of the land and working together to make it grand again. Thank you so much, Program Director.
Thank you, Mr. Masubi, for coming forward, because this is an opportunity for everyone. And I've been sending messages on the group, Travelers, to say, come through, share your thoughts, share your poems, share your music, share your anything that you want to share that's related to the topic or related to the work that we're doing with this module. Just come forward. And the great part or the nice part about this is that you get rewarded for participating. So, Mr. Masuba, you already earned yourself 5% towards your final mark for just participating. So, well done. Congratulations to you. And so we will then move to the main part of today's program. I will introduce our first speaker, who's already ready and visible on our screen. Selloane Moeti is a multifaceted artist who practices as a painter and a performance artist. Her work is on dreamscapes with a focus on healing, and her work is deeply connected to the transformative potential of the environment. Moeti's journey in the arts began with her fine arts degree at Durban University of Technology in 2009. She has been dedicated to practicing. She has been a dedicated practicing artist from 2017, continuously evolving and refining her painting techniques. In 2016, she founded and led Sketchin, a platform that offers figure drawing and concept development classes to emerging artists in Durban and rural KwaZulu-Natal. Moeti has won numerous awards, her two latest awards being the RMB Talented Unlocked Award in 2021 and the first prize in the Members Award exhibition at the KZN South Africa Gallery in 2019. Welcome, Selloane Moeti. Thank you so much for agreeing to be with us today and choosing to come and share on this theme with us and sharing your time and your talents and your holistic being with us. Welcome to the Decolonial Community Dialogue session.
You're so kind. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I feel so honored to actually come and speak here with you guys, because my practice has been something very personal in terms of a journey for me, because it was more than just a career for me. I treat art as a calling, So I think the best way to actually explain on my side, decolonization in terms of my practice is to me to explain my story to me. So guys, please forgive me, first of all. It's hot in Durban and there's no shading at the moment up until 6 o'clock. So I might sweat a bit. So just excuse that. So yeah, I think in the beginning when I started practicing, for me, how I think the main thing when it comes to colonization, I feel like for me, how I explain it, it's an enforced westernization of African people of the African descent. So it could be African people who are Caribbean people, Haitian people, people from South Africa. I feel like it's westernizing us basically as African people. And that's bringing the teachings as well as the institutions that we go to. So for me, my journey with art, I started drawing and practicing from a young age. I think grade 4, I think even younger than that, I was already practicing art in terms of drawing home, creating puppets and all that kind of stuff. But I became serious with art when I chose it as a subject in high school, influenced by my art teacher in grade 9. And from then on, I was told that, okay, you have this gift, you know, and I was like, let me see what I can actually do with. For me at that young age, it wasn't the fact that it was, I'm good at this. It was that it feels good to me. You know what I mean? The intuition was there. The feeling was there. So for me, it became something like a peaceful space, like a safe place to be when I went and I walked into my art class or my technical drawing classes, because I also did that in high school. So after that, I went and I studied in the multimedia and web designing first before I studied fine arts. And while I was doing multimedia and web designing, that's when I realized that my calling was fine arts. My calling was for me to be able to create a concept from its inceptual stage, to innovate it, to grow it, research it, and then look at it in its full force. And I felt like when I was starting the multimedia part of it, it was more of a surface ground, and I needed to go deeper into it, you know. So, and then I changed, not even changed, I finished that course, and then I studied fine art in DUT. When I studied fine art, it was between fine arts or architecture, and I chose fine art. And I always tell people that no one goes into art thinking they're gonna have this make money, like how you join finance or become a doctor or all those things. You know, when you fine arts chooses you, whether you're a musician or anything like that, because no one would choose that kind of life, because every day it's a working process. Every day it's a journey for you to discover yourself and discover your universe that can influence your work, you know. So for me, in terms of all of that, when I started that, it was weird because I studied around the time when it's 2005, 2006, 2007. So around that time, most of the works that we were doing, it was very traditional Western ways of being an artist. So I could say that I'm a clinically or skilled fine artist because I learned the traditional way of creating art. You know, I learned the traditional way of all painting, the canvases, even the history of art that they teach us. It was a Western way. It was a Western view to the art, you know. And for me, from that age, I saw it as a different perspective. I saw it as an outside person looking in. I didn't feel like it was part of me in any way, because I already felt like it was added in a sense, because whenever they will talk about African art, it will always craft first, or art that is functional art first before it becomes fine art. You know, it will always be like, no, African artists usually do this for traditional mediums, for this and this and this, which most of the time it was that, which most of the time the things that sit in these museums or these institutions are most of the times items or objects that were used within that traditional or within our own cultural processes or learnings in our own way, you know. So when I was learning all of that, something just felt wrong. But I finished my degree after that, and then I started becoming a practicing artist. And obviously, when I'm starting to become a practicing artist, I'm looking at it from what I was taught, you know, because I was taught this is the right way of actually doing it, and you know, this is the Western way of actually doing it, you know. And also, when you were that young, 22, 23, I was then signed by a gallery that was overseas, and at that time it was 2008, 2009. There was no social media, or there was no way of communicating in a sense. So everything was always via email or all of that. And I felt like my voice was being diluted because I'm shipping these works, but yet I'm not part of the conversation with my work. I'm not part of the conversation of actually articulating my work and telling everybody what I'm creating at that time. And because of everything that was happening at that time, I felt like my work was being diluted and I was silenced, or was being censored. As a Black woman in Africa, you know, creating work, even though it was being showcased in Amsterdam and all of those places, you know, which caused a very huge, I would say, maybe space between me and my work. I didn't feel like I was connected to it after a while, because of all of that, which means that then I started being me, not attending my exhibitions and all those kind of things. And then I didn't realize, I remember the last time I created art was for the Durban Art Gallery here. It was 2010. And I had a broken arm, and I just created this piece, which was probably 1.9 meters. And I delivered at the gallery. I remember that time was supposed to be a proud moment because it was my first museum show, you know, and I was so young at that time. But I just felt like I shouldn't be there. I shouldn't happen, you know, like how everything was going was just wrong. And the only way was for me to actually just stop, you know, just be, don't practice arts anymore, because I felt like I was so drained. I was so hurt by it, by the processes of art, by the industry itself and how everything was working. I felt like I was not seeing, I was not talking my truth. Everything was just a matter of just me being locked up in the studio and I'm creating work for other people to explain it, you know? And I remember when I went home with a friend of mine at that time, I was like, this is the last time I'm going to make art for a long time. I don't think I'm going to touch a painting again, like a paintbrush again. And that comes from me to then taking a hiatus, which is, I don't think it was a break of me creating. I think it was a break of me unlearning. I think that those 4 years or 4 to 5 years of my life was when I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the African history. I learned a lot about our spirituality. I learned a lot about how we can actually have a voice and try to show the rest of the world with our own perspective within my work, you know. So from those times, I tried different things in terms of art. So because I'm a visual person and I'm a creative, I couldn't sit and not make work. So I worked with film directors, creating, styling them, doing wardrobe. I worked with musicians, styling music videos. I worked with my own thing, doing concepts, photo shoots, and then I started, brands started seeing it. And at this time, it's probably 2013, 2014, 2015. And I started working with different brands at that time, trying to show my work and trying to show my point of view, my own aesthetic, my own African aesthetic within the rest of the world. And I felt like at that time, that's when I felt like I was seen. That's when I felt like I actually learned to have my own voice, having those international brands trying to collaborate with the person I was working with at that time, you know. And then, but with all of that, I think it took a spiritual illness. I would not even say illness, because it was, I became sick, in a sense that, not physically sick in a sense, like I wasn't ill, but I was sleepwalking. I was talking in my sleep and not knowing. I was having dreams that were very, very much vivid. I was talking things out of turn or to people that I didn't know. And at that time, I didn't know what was going on, because even though I was learning about African arts and African spirituality, I hadn't gone into my own personal one, my own personal journey, you know. So when I started going through the journey by searching my own work, searching my own history, because I'm a Sotho woman now, born and raised in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. My dad is from Lesotho, at Kasha. My mom is Swati, but she's from here in Durban. They met here in Durban, both of them, and they decided to raise their family here in Durban, which means that me and my sisters and my siblings all were brought up in a Zulu context. So there was a displacement that we had growing up. So I felt like starting my practice again. I was going to start my practice again. Now this is now 2016. And then, but before I did that, I had to do a spiritual cleansing, because of all the things that was happening in my personal life before I worked on my work. And with all of that was happening, there was a lot of, you know. So ibomvu, in my dreams, I was always covered in it, or always washed in it, or there was always a a lot of it's around, you know. And then after my cleansing, that's when I started searching about my history, I would say my dad, my paternal side of the family, because I was very much close with my mother's side of the family, but because my paternal side of the family was out of the country, I didn't know that much about my past and my history. And also, my dad had 5 girls, so he always thought because we're girls, we're going to get married and get to someone else's family and their own surname, you know. He didn't think it was that much important, you know. But I felt like it was for me in terms of my own spiritual growth, my own spiritual practice. And because that consumed my life so much, it then embedded within my work. And then I tried, because I was a dreamer and those dreams were very much vivid, I started voice noting them every morning. So not even every morning, I'll wake up at 2 a.m. to the dream, and I'll take my phone and I'll record the dream and I'll go back to sleep. And usually when I wake up, I start sketching it, you know, and I start remembering what's going on. So my work is very much works on intuition and memory and trying to figure out the dreamscapes alongside with the spiritual message that comes with it. You know, I want to share something with you guys, which is something that I did because I'm a visual person. I want to be able to guys see my work. Let's see. Can I share? It doesn't give me
Yes,
option.
you should be able. Do you see the share option on the bottom of your screen if you're using a phone? Sorry?
No, it's right now. I think it's because I'm not the one who's holding the meeting. It's actually blocked. I think you have to allow me.
Okay,
to
let me sort that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you try now?
Goes and go back. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay. This is just me just showing you guys the journey of my works. Let's see if I can move this. I work a lot with the impepho, nebomvu. For those who don't know, impepho, it's some sort of sage that you usually use to connect with the people that have already passed on spiritually. So mangabe umuntu ophahlayo. I'm so sorry if I'm going to speak Zulu because that's my first language. Mangabe umuntu ophahlayo, usually you light impepho yakho, you light your candle, you kneel down with your water and you start speaking, you start praying, and then you start speaking to your ancestors. So I grew up with that notion. I grew up with knowing that at home, you know. So when I use impepho in my work, I use it on the faces, like how you can see this was an exhibition that I had last year at Latitude Art Fair. Not actually last year, this year, June, at Latitude Art Fair. I used the impepho nebomvu. Ibomvu, what it is, it's clay, it's red clay. What it's used for usually in an African spirituality or an African context is that you use it for protection, for physical protection as well as spiritual protection, as well as you use it when you are in conjuncts in your life. So whether you're moving from being a boy to now being a man, they go through that when they cover you with that. And then when you go through the cleansing, you are released on the other side, cleansed from that, as well as when you are going through being having a sangoma. It's usually used in that context as well, more twasa. And then when you graduate, you cleanse it out, you know. So both of these elements are all about healing and protecting yourself. And these days also have added holy ash that's already been prayed for because I didn't explain that I come from a family where my mom is a prayer. My grandmother was as well. People would travel from far to come to Enanda, the high school, which is where my grandmother used to study, just for her to pray on people, you know. So I grew up in that context, having these matriarchal women being able to use their gifts to actually heal others, or even show them, direct them the right way based on their dreams or based on their prayers, you know. This is, I also do performances, right? And I remember Uhame Ombali was saying earlier about how spaces that needs to be cleansed as well, like these institutions that needs to be cleansed in order for them to actually carry on. This is a performance that I did at the case at NSA. I was asked to do a performance in August. And for me, for a while, there was always something in whenever I go to the space, because it's a space that is over 100 years old, and it was run by very Western ways. Even right now, it's a white cube that's run in a very traditional Western structure, you know. So when they asked me to do a performance, I wanted to create something that's not only gonna be aesthetic or academic. I wanted it to have some sort of intention as well as purpose as well, you know, because when you go to these spaces, they usually are not cleansed, and they usually feel heavy on most African people or most Black people when you go into it, because I feel like most of us have that intuition, most of us have that feeling whenever we walk into certain spaces, you know, that lana and that's corner, you know. So I created this page, this performances, which I started it during lockdown, called Isolation. And when I created it, I wanted to make sure that the space itself, as well as everybody else, understand that when it comes to spirituality and when it comes to your practice, solitude is the key. For you to cancel all of the noise and to have to be at peace with the stillness. Most people can't be still, can't stand quietness because of everything that is really going on in their minds, you know. So when I made this piece was all about the acceptance, as well as and to say that whatever happened in the past, we are now here to take over the space. You have to accept us in these spaces, you know. So which was very much, I didn't expect it to have that much impact to me mostly, even though most performances that I do, all of my performances, I've never repeated them again, because I feel like then there will be a performance of performance, because most of my work is very much rooted in spirituality and intuition and feeling at that time. And once I repeat it, I feel like it becomes very much performative. So let me just move on. So I just wanted to guys also show you some of the images that I create, because I use a lot of dreamscapes, because my work is very much rooted in dreamscapes. It's very much rooted in land and taking over the land that you are in, at the space. So most of the time, umsebenzi wami is usually Black women taking over the space as they could, you know. It's usually women that are not afraid to actually exist and letting people to actually look at them. And most of it's people that are my family. Like this painting, how I'm just trying to explain how my personal life integrates with my work. This painting was of my sister, who had a blanket ceremony in June, and this time around she was already 42 years old, you know, and she hadn't had it before, even though she was born within marriage. It's just that we didn't know, because she was conceived before marriage, from the maternal side. So we didn't know that we had to do it up until I had a dream in September. My dad, who's late, was telling me that my sister needs to leave. She needs to leave that house. And in the dream, me thinking physically, what are you talking about, Dad? What house? And he's pulling me and he's taking me to, like, let's leave this house and all those kind of things. And for me, even the stubborn person that I am, he had to come 3 times in a row, which was unheard of for me. I've never had a person come 3 times to give me a message in a dream, especially in a row. So I didn't know how to, and then within 3 weeks later, my elder sister fell ill, because of that, and then after her being ill, we then 3 months later decided we need to do a blanket ceremony to take her out of the maternal side to the paternal side. So, and then I created this work, which was in June. I think this exhibition happened 2 weeks before the blanket ceremony that actually happened. Let's see, this image is actually about sketching. In Durban before COVID, I would say, I had run an organization called Sketching, which is for people that are creatives, or people that are interested in arts, or people that are already established artists or already creatives that feel like they have no voice, that feel like they don't know where to go, or they're feeling that they have that writer's block or that block within the creative sector. So what we do in Sketching, it's a figure drawing class, basically, using the traditional method of fine arts as well, but also introducing African artists to explain their process, their concepts. So I invite artists usually who come in and talk about their concepts and talk about and inspire young people. Here, it was at the Bed Center, which is at the hub of Durban. Usually students who study arts are here. Usually people that are practicing arts are here as well. So this space is where most people want to gain their inspiration at, when we also create sketching, we also do it for kids as well. We also do it in the rural areas. Just so, because I feel like when it comes to art in the Western context, they don't teach it in rural schools most of the time. Rural schools are usually taught either you're going to pick science or economics. It's not part of the caliber. And I feel like when it comes to art, it shapes us to actually think outside the box. It shapes our young people to be able to actually critically think, to be able to exercise their curiosity. And I feel like it's very much important in the growth of a child, whether they're going to pursue it in the future or not. I feel like it plays a huge role, in terms of you making decision making and having a voice within the society, So when we do these classes, I work with a lot of my sisters. I've got a lot of sisters, 4 sisters, and I work with my friends, and it's not funded by anyone. It's purely funded by us. And we took it all over Durban. So this was the Bed Center one. We take it all over. So we can actually target different demographics of people within the spaces, within the city, and also try to take over the spaces, This was the performance that I was telling you guys about, that Ibomvu plays a huge role in trying to heal, trying to talk, trying to open a dialogue within, I feel like, the spirituality of our work and of us as people, because I feel like abantu abaningi, they don't know ukuthi all of us were given that gift of intuition. You know what I mean? All of us were given that gift of having to know this thing, it doesn't feel right within my soul. Most of us forget it or put it in the back of our head, or are already put, I feel like, trained so much that it's not intuition anymore. It doesn't come as secondary. You know what I mean? So when it comes to spirituality, I feel like to intuition, my work plays a huge role into that in training art, you usually taught to, you have to paint what you see. You have to draw what's there. I try by all means not to do that because I'm so technically trained. I get lost in trying to make it look perfect, whatever that I draw or whatever that I work on. So whatever in my works, as you can see, they disfigured most of them. The perspective is not right because most of the time, actually all the time, I work on intuition and I just work on the feeling at that time, which is why most of the time when people see my work live, they usually always get that sense of overwhelm because it's so present, it's so African, but yet the aesthetic is also still there, So yeah, I think that's my journey. And I feel like the takeaway to this for me, it's that it's not just me. It's not because I'm not, even though I was technically trained, I don't regard myself as an academic, and I feel like decolonizing, it starts with all of us in our homes, in how we do things, and how we raise things. It starts with curiosity. It starts with asking why, and I feel like interrogating that in schools, interrogating that in within the kids, our African kids, them seeing a lot of people that look the same. It helps a lot, So yeah, I think that's what I have for you guys in my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Selloane. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. You've given us so much to think about and a lot of affirmations as well from our side with what we're doing. Just on your last point with regards to decolonization, not only having to exist within the institution, but it has to exist within our homes, within our communities as well, which is something that we press and we echo and we really retell, that we need to find ways to merge or find ways to leave these institutions, to be in community and practice, to be in community and set on transformation and decolonization and the things that we do. And we've seen with our students, with the different activities that they have to do, the community projects that they have to do, we're seeing them drawing out and also looking inward. And I like that what you said about, your practice is personal, yet is for the betterment of the healing of the family and the healing of the community, which is something that's very central when it comes to the decolonial principle and the ideas of community and the ideas of forging forward as people who are colonized and people who are trying to redefine and repower ourselves in terms of to restore and find ways forward as African people. And myself, I was with Ms. Khatebe. We had the opportunity to actually see your work last year around this time at the Springs Gallery, where one of our colleagues, Dr. Bongani Mkwanza, was doing a presentation and we went to support him. We got to see the art pieces, and what you're saying about the art pieces, drawing one to see beyond the colors, but also the facing, what you do with the facing, Oblongwe, and and I'm also interested to hear what the different things that you use with the impepo and sage, with impepo and holy ash as well as Oblongo. What type of messaging are you maybe trying to convey? Is there any? What does that process do for you? But maybe you can answer the question later. I'll give
I can answer now because I forget.
I want to give